Hey guys, today's lesson is over water. Your objectives for today are that the student will recognize the importance of water in living things, and the student will be able to construct an explanation to explain phenomena based on the chemical properties of water. Have you ever wondered why some insects can walk on water? What about lizards? Or the fact that water beads like this, or even the meniscus. What causes this? Hopefully you will begin to explain these phenomena as we move through this unit. Most would say that jellyfish and humans are nothing alike, but the bodies of both are made of cells filled with water. All chemical reactions of living things take place in an aqueous environment. Water has several properties that makes it one of the most important compounds found in living things. The human adult body is made up 60% of water. Some individuals have as much as 90% of their total body weight made up of water. Again, our body is an aqueous environment, being made mostly of water. Without water, life is not possible. We are made up of cells, and cells are made mostly of water. We have over 100 trillion cells in our body. Um, so if cells are made of water, then obviously that would make sense why our living body is made of water. Having the right balance of water is necessary for proper functioning of life's processes. So you'll see here, there's numerous examples of that. It forms saliva. It flushes body waste, usually in the form of urine. It lubricates joints. It converts food needed for survival. It helps deliver oxygen all over the body. That's just to name a few. So why does salt dissolve in water, but sand does not? Just want you to think about that for a second. So let's look at the properties of water a little closer. So many of water's biological function stems from its chemical structure. Water molecules are actually pretty cool. In a water molecule, the hydrogen and oxygen atoms here share electrons. So we should recall that that is a covalent bond, okay, first and foremost. Because oxygen and hydrogen don't share the electrons equally, the reason why is because oxygen is a bully. So oxygen has a little bit greater pull um, and strength than the hydrogen does. Okay, it is attracting the electrons to its nucleus because it has a stronger nucleus because it has more protons in the nucleus, right? Which is a positive charge. So because they're sharing them unequally, the charge is not distributed equally in the water molecule. It's uneven. This causes the molecule to be what we refer to as polar. It's a polar molecule, meaning it has partial positive and partial negative ends. Because these two electrons are spending more time over here, that's where it's going to get a partial negative charge. And because it's exposing this side of the nucleus, it's going to have a partial positive charge. Okay. It's kind of like I always use the analogy of having, a best friend, and those two parents have to share their children, right? Because a lot of times you spend more time over at one house versus the other. Maybe the parents are cooler, maybe the mom cooks better, maybe you have better video games, better food, whatever the case may be. It's usually, for the most part, works out that you're spending more time at one than the other. That's the analogy that I use for polar molecules. So this is what makes water such a good solvent of other polar molecules, such as salts, sugars, and proteins. Okay, so let's look at that. So an ionic compound dissolved in water tends to dissociate into ions. That's what we're seeing here. So here is this salt crystal. Okay, when it comes into water, because water is polar, it has those partial positives and negatives. It's strong enough to pull apart the ionic compound of salt. Okay, so what that means, I gave the example in the last lesson about ionic bonds being like a magnet. If there's a strong enough force to separate them, they can be separated, and water tends to be that. Okay, nonpolar molecules do not dissolve because of the attractive forces between the water molecules are stronger than the attractive force between water and the nonpolar molecule. Okay, hopefully that didn't confuse you guys. The way I like to put it is like dissolves like. Okay, so polar dissolves polar, nonpolar is going to dissolve nonpolar. Okay, so because of these properties, water is known as the natural solvent or nature solvent because most substances dissolve in it, and it's way more than any other solvent on Earth. So then I pose the question, why do you think oil and water don't mix? We'll visit this when we join together again. So hydrogen bonding is another term, and hopefully this is something that you've learned in physical science last year. But hydrogen bonding is going to occur between hydrogen and 3 other elements: nitrogen, oxygen, and phosphorus. If you look on the periodic table, you will see where those are located up at the top right corner. Okay. These types of bonds are weaker than ionic or covalent bonds. Okay, they can be easily broken. We will come across these again with DNA replication, which is how our DNA copies itself, okay, to make new cells. So the polar nature of water causes the molecules to be attracted to one another, okay, because here's one molecule, here's another water molecule, and a third. So remember I said they have those partial charges. So the partial negative of this oxygen is attracting the partial positives of the 2 neighboring hydrogens. Okay, so it makes it kind of like a basketball net, how like in a net it intertwines or cross links each other. That's exactly what happens in these water molecules with these hydrogen bonds that we see here. Okay, they are weak, they can be broken, but they do have those attractive forces within the molecule. I think I have another animation. Nope. On this one. So again, oh, this is an animation. So this shows, if I can get it to work, there we go, how those shared electrons between the carbon or the hydrogen and the oxygen, I'll play it again if I can stop it. Okay. So there are the shared electrons. They're being pulled towards the more powerful atom, which is the oxygen. Now we got those partial positives and partial negatives. We bring another water molecule in, and now we see how those two are attracted, and that causes the hydrogen bond. So what you need to understand is hydrogen bonding is between molecules, okay? It's like intertwining, making a net between the water molecules, okay? Covalent and ionic bonding is between the atoms in a molecule, okay? So I'm going to play it one more time. Here's the covalent bonding, but because they're sharing unequally, it causes the charges, which then attract other water molecules to form hydrogen bonds. Okay, so let's go back to our insects walking on water. So why? That's because of the surface tension of the water molecules. Okay, so for example, so we just talked about hydrogen bonding. This is just another depiction of that here. Okay, so there's an attraction, and they're kind of like, you can look at it as they're linking hands, they're holding hands, these water molecules. Okay, the insect is not a great enough mass or does not apply enough force to break the hydrogen bonds between those molecules. Okay, this is what we refer to as surface tension. Okay, the molecules on the surface of the water have stronger attraction to each other and cannot be broken. Now I say cannot be broken, but it can be. Obviously, if it was a larger insect, it's not going to be able to walk on water, right? This is a water strider, so it's able to walk on water. So what do you think about if it was a different liquid? So we'll revisit this. And I'm going to ask you where else you may have seen surface tension. All right, next we have what we refer to as cohesion and adhesion. Okay, one of these is due to polarity, the other is due to hydrogen bonding. Okay, I like this little picture. Cohesion is here, and you'll notice the coloring. So this is attraction between two like molecules. Adhesion is here. We have two different colors. So this is an attraction between two separate substances, okay? Two different molecules. All right, so cohesion is what's going to occur, okay, with water droplets. Okay, so those atoms or those molecules are holding hands and attracted to each other more than they're attracted to the other surface. Okay, so like in this example, this leaf, the water molecules are attracted to each other more than they're attracted to the leaf. So it causes them to bead like this. The same is true down here on this spider web, which looks pretty cool. Okay. And again, that's because of these holding of hands of these water molecules to each other. Okay, so that is the polarity, right? Okay, now adhesion is when a molecule, well, in this case, we're talking about water, sticks to the side of another substance. And it means that it has a greater attraction to that other substance, more so than it does to each other, to itself. Okay, so this is the meniscus right here. So if you've dealt with test tubes, if you went to a brick and mortar school where you had any lab experience, you would know that water has this, what we call a meniscus, okay, when we're measuring out liquids or our volume. That's because the sides, the water is attracted to the glass, so it starts crawling up the side. Okay. And I love this droplets like it's hot. All right, so that's cohesion and adhesion. All right, so let me clarify what is meant by one of these being due to polarity and the other because of hydrogen bonding, because you may be confused, because if you caught on or have been following along, then you know that polar molecules, water in this case, because of its polarity with those partial charges, causes the hydrogen bonding that occurs between the atoms or the molecules, okay? So yes, that is true. However, with adhesion, it is the hydrogen bonding between the glass, for instance, and the water molecules. Okay, so the hydrogen in the water is attracted to either the N, the O, or the F of the glass. So that is what I'm meaning with that statement. All right, and lastly, we will watch a quick video, if I can get it to play, actually. If not, no, I don't think I'm going to get it to play. Nope. Then that's going to wrap up our lesson. We will pick up here in class in just a moment.